Hello, 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 and welcome. This is Her Talk Show. Thank you so much for joining us. We are here with Alyssa today, and we are going to be talking to the moms of our community today. We're talking all about burnout. So get comfortable as we explore the triumphs, the challenges faced by women worldwide, offering insights and inspiration to fuel your personal and professional growth. Let's jump right in.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
All right, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I see you jumping on live. If you're listening on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're listening to us at so we can send you some love in the comments. We're here every day delving deep into the realms of health, wealth, and leadership with some of the most brilliant women globally. We've interviewed over 600 women, and today we are adding another one to the list. We have Alyssa Brade. She is a passionate advocate for maternal mental health with a master's in English and degrees in anthropology, linguistics, and communication. Her book, Mommy Needs a Minute, explores the unique challenges faced by modern mothers, offering practical self-care insights and strategies. Through her multidisciplinary research and personal experience, Brade empowers mothers to reclaim their mental well-being and confidence amidst societal and self-imposed pressures. So excited to be speaking to her today. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Sabrina. I'm really excited to be here and share with your listeners.
Yes, I love this. So before we jump in, I'm assuming you're a mom.
Yes, I am. I have two wonderful toddler boys, a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, both completely unexpected in our amazing world. So that has been a little bit of a life change for me.
Wow, both of them unexpected.
Yes, I was actually told I couldn't have children. So we were pretty shocked when I got pregnant with my first a couple months before the whole country shut down with the COVID pandemic. And then one failed vasectomy later, we found out that I was pregnant with my second.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's awesome. I freaking love that. Good for you. And still little. So obviously you were feeling the overwhelm, feeling the burnout right away because they're 2 and 3.
Yeah, and it was not exactly planned. My husband and I were very career oriented. I was in the middle of a master's degree at the time. I had plans to work for a federal government agency where I was going to work as a technical writer, a schedule that would keep me away from home a lot, busy hours. And then everything kind of went to the side. It was like getting side hit with the train, and we revamped our lives and reevaluated what was important.
Wow. So you're in the middle of all of this change and then you're just like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write a book.
Yes, actually, the inspiration for the book came because I wasn't handling the change very well. I was still trying to be the incredible, all organic, stay at home mom. I was also trying to work full time and be a successful businesswoman, have a career. It led to 60-hour days, or sorry, 60-hour work weeks. I ended up, when I was pregnant, I was so exhausted and sick and overwhelmed. I was carrying my then 8-month-old down the stairs and I fainted. And I ended up landing on him and my belly in an attempt to try to stay upright. It resulted in my then 8-month-old having internal hemorrhaging in his brain, a crack in his skull. We ended up having to have him medically helicoptered to a pediatric surgeon, and they told us that chances were he wasn't going to live. And that point where I realized that my ambition and my drive and my need to do it all was leading to such unhealthy practices that my child was suffering, I was suffering. Like, you want to talk about mom guilt, I was drowning in it. Miraculously, we ended up doing another MRI when we got there, and the pediatric doctor was like, we can't explain it. The hemorrhaging in his brain stopped. They observed him for a few days, and now he's a very healthy 3.5-year-old hitting all of his milestones. But it was the wake-up call that I needed to sit down and see what was going on within me and what was going on in our society that was causing me to feel so much pressure that I was willing to push myself to that extreme. And other women like me who have similar stories pushing themselves to those extremes to meet these expectations.
Absolutely. I think more so now than ever because everything's on social media. So we're having to feel as if everything, our hair, our makeup, our face, our clothes, our body, our weight, our house, our cars have to be immaculate.
Yes, I think that's such a huge component of it, Sabrina. And I love that you mentioned that. So much of this pressure that we place on ourselves is from this illusion that we don't show up authentically on social media. We show up with our best. And that produces this illusion that motherhood is easy. You can have it all. You can do it all. And when things are seen as a struggle, it's almost portrayed as a joke or something that's funny to be laughed at instead of the cry for help that it often is of women who are overwhelmed.
Yeah. You know what this is coming up for me? What I'm thinking of is probably, I don't know, 5 years or so ago, there was a lot of women that were getting called out for having curated authenticity or curated imperfections,
Mhm.
meaning like their house looked a mess, but it was all like curated to look a mess,
Like
but not,
staged.
yeah, but not like actually a mess. Um, and then it would be like, oh, my house is a mess. And it's all just kind of staged. And the difference between that and again, the pressure of
Mhm.
real reality versus curated.
Yes, and I think that is so powerful you mention because I think children are such a great example of honing in on what authenticity and inauthenticity looks like. And watching my children has really given me such a good look into what authentic living looks like. They have no inhibitions. They show up as the best and worst versions of themselves. And I think that showing up for other people in that real, authentic, raw way, you have to have a deep sense of self worth and be willing to be vulnerable because not everybody loves your authenticity and your authentic self. So being able to show up confidently and not curating authenticity takes a lot of courage.
Absolutely. I'm going to say yes on that. All right. So you um had two babies, very
Mhm.
close in age. You're feeling overwhelmed. You have this dramatic thing that happens that wakes you up. You sit down and you're like, I need to speak not only to myself, but I need to speak to other women, other millennials out
Mhm.
there that are dealing with this. Right before we jumped onto the podcast, you had mentioned that there's several areas of which women can feel overwhelmed. Can we talk about that first?
Yes, I would love to share that. So each chapter of my book is broken down into a different area of burnout that I noticed many women were feeling. So we talk about information burnout, mental health burnout, body burnout, identity burnout, career burnout, the mom guilt burnout cycle, self judgment burnout, and how all of these different areas of burnout impact our mental health, our well being, our parenting, our sense of identity, how we show up for ourselves, and how we show up for others.
Hmm. Perfect. I think everyone can relate to all of that.
Yes, I think some of the biggest chapters that I found really challenging for me to write and really dive into were the identity and the mental health burnout. They're so closely interwoven, and I think they're two of the biggest things that fuel mom guilt. And I personally find that many of the women in our society, we run on mom guilt. It fuels us. All of our actions are based in mom guilt. A lot of our decisions for the future are based in the guilt that we feel over not being enough, not being adequate, not doing enough for our children. So I would really encourage women, if you only have a few minutes, to really dive into the mental health and identity aspect, because that plays such a pivotal role in the burnout guilt cycle that we often face. And that impacts our decisions, our sense of self-worth, our identity, how we parent, how we show up for ourselves.
How is there a shift in identity when we start to work on this?
So there's there's some really interesting research about that. Several anthropologists have examined that in America, when other countries say, "Oh, she had a child," here we often say a child is born. The emphasis is usually placed on the child, which is in itself an incredible and wonderful and life-changing thing. Oftentimes, what ends up happening is the mom has the baby, and the attention gets shifted to the child, which is an important thing to draw your attention to, but we often forget to think about ourselves, the hormonal changes, the physical changes, the emotional changes, the mental changes that take place. Your career decisions aren't going to be the same because they're forever going to be impacted by this new life you have. The hormone imbalance that's going on postpartum is comparative to what a teenager goes through during puberty. Those huge hormonal shifts where it's hard for your body to find a sense of balance. It's undergoing a monumental change. In addition to that, after you have the baby, even when your body starts to look the same, it will not necessarily feel the same. Your body is changed. It has undergone a major process. These are things that we don't really talk about that play a big role in identity and leads to mothers often going ahead and carrying on because society tells us you had the baby, you're fine, get over it. Your body can bounce back in a couple of months. It's not a big deal. We just pick up and you should be going back to work in a couple of months. And then we feel inadequate and overwhelmed when we've had this huge identity shift and nobody recognizes it but us. And it's not being talked about. So we feel like there must be something wrong with us because I'm not transitioning the way I need to transition.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I totally relate to it could look the same or similar. Not all of us have like huge drastic changes in our body, but it could feel different. And yeah, I think every woman can relate to that as far as, either one or the other or both.
Yes. And
Either way, there's a change.
exactly. And taking time to, like with anything in life, taking time to process big life changes is so pivotal to be able to enter into the new season feeling confident and prepared, having said goodbye to the old season and grieved for whatever you might have lost in that old season and celebrate what you're gaining in this new season. It's important to take the time to do that. And I feel oftentimes, especially with a newborn, there isn't the time to process all of that. You're taking care of a new life. You're figuring out how this new life is going to fit into your current life. And it's hard to find the time, to take the time to do that. And it's one of the biggest complaints I've heard among women, specifically young mothers, is, well, this is all well and good, but how do I find the time to even take a minute for myself? And then how do I take the minute without feeling guilty when there's so many other people who need me to do all these other things?
Yeah, definitely. Do we think that this is heavier for us regarding social media than it was previously? Or do you think this is an ongoing thing that all women have dealt with?
So mom guilt historically has roots all the way back to the Roman Empire. There's always been a lot of traditional gender roles placed on women, and deviation from these norms or discontent within these norms has led women historically to feel guilt, mom guilt typically, because moms have traditionally been the caregivers. So that necessarily hasn't changed. I do think, from having done some research, talking with older women, that the age of information has been a beautiful thing, and it's also been a challenging thing. A specifically millennial generation, our moms didn't grow up in the age of information. We weren't modeled the tools to healthily use this information to better our lives instead of overwhelm our lives. And so we have women who are in my generation who are learning how to navigate social media, not only for parenting tips, but to evaluate and compare my value and sense of self-worth, how well I'm measuring up to other mom standards, what other moms are doing with their children, extracurricular activities, education, social interaction. And we weren't given a lot of tools on how to navigate this in healthy ways because our moms didn't have those things. Our moms had books they got from the library and friends that they talked to, as well as the own women in their life who helped inspire them. My grandma always told me, she was like, why are you trying all these different sleep methods? She's like, I haven't even heard of most of these. In my day, we would just set the baby down, and if they cried for 15 minutes, they usually cried themselves to sleep, and it wasn't a big deal. And if they cried a little, you learn next time. And while I think that the age of information has given us so many incredible tools at our fingertips, it's also given us a lot of burnout and overwhelm because there's a million different ways to do it right. And there's a million different ways to raise a human, and your child and your life is unique to you. And trying to apply all of these different things that are working for other people can leave you feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, I totally get that because there's so many videos, podcasts, short videos, YouTube videos, books, magazines on how to do it.
Exactly.
And you feel like you have to read all of them.
And then some of them contradict each other. And so then you go, okay, what should I choose? And I remember when my little guy was just a few months old, I was trying to swaddle him and he just would not sleep. He would not settle. And I went to every parenting forum I could find. Am I swaddling incorrectly? Am I not using the right type of blanket? Is he too hot? Is he too cold? I asked on parenting chat groups. I read every mommy blog. And finally, when I was crying on the floor, holding the organic cloth blanket, my husband came in and he unswaddled my little guy and laid him on his back and just draped the blanket over him. And he just went right to sleep. My husband was like, he just didn't want to be swaddled. And I was like, how did you, that's not what the parenting book says. That's not what all the experts say. And he's like, well, I just observed that he doesn't like to be swaddled. And I think in the age of information, we've lost a little bit of that ability to sit with the discomfort of our child's unhappy. I need to fix it now. I need to research everything and try every method. And we've lost a little bit of that natural ability that we are deeply connected with our children. And they will tell us things that they need, and it might be different from what everybody else's child needs. And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. When you were talking about the library and the books, it brought me back to when I was like 7 years old, going to the library with my mom, and we get so excited to like check out 7 books with the covers and the little dinging of I forgot about that, the library. That was such a good time.
I know what I think it's amazing, those things. I still take my toddlers to the library. It's the highlight of our week. They ask to go to the library every week. And sometimes in the age of information, we lose the beautiful connection we have with other people and that sensory input of touching books and turning the page and talking to other people. And we don't need a million opinions. You just need 1 or 2 that give really solid advice that you can compare against your own intrinsic maternal instincts to know what's right for your child.
Yes. I love that you're still taking your little ones to the library. My son is 20. So we stopped that probably around, I don't know. I probably haven't been to the library in like 13 years.
You need to make a trip. Just go for you.
That's awesome. All right. So we've talked about the different areas of which women could have burnout. We've talked about how we sometimes look the same, but don't feel the same, or don't look the same and don't feel the same. What are your secrets? What is your advice? What are some of the practical self-care strategies that you teach your community as far as helping moms get back their mental well-being?
I think the cornerstone from which everything grows from is that sense of self-worth and that identity. So I would encourage all women to start with taking time to truly know yourself. It's actually surprising how little we know about our own selves because we're so busy trying to be what everybody else thinks we should be, or even just so busy in general that we're not exactly sure what we like or what we need or when we need it. So I encourage all women, start with a little identity journal. Take 5 minutes with your morning coffee, or 5 minutes before the kids get up, or 5 minutes after they go to bed, to sit down and write down, what are the things you don't like? What brings disconnect to your soul? For me, I don't like when my schedule's overcrowded. I don't like when music is playing when I'm trying to have a conversation. It makes me feel overwhelmed. I don't like a lot of loud noises. I don't like when people yell a lot. It typically causes me to feel overstimulated. Those are things I know that I don't like about myself. And then I go ahead and I write a list of the things that I do love. And this is really powerful, and it's important to be honest with yourself and to actually write these things down, because oftentimes what we like and what we don't like is very different from what is trending right now. I hate running. Everyone and their mom could tell me that running is amazing. And I have tried to love it for years because I'm supposed to love it. And I hate running. I don't think I'll ever be a runner. And that's okay. It's really important to be honest with yourself on what you like and what you don't like. And from there, you start to develop your sense of self. The second thing that I recommend women do to help instill a strong sense of identity is to take yourself out on a date once a week. And it sounds funny, but to actually do something nice for yourself. And when you commit to doing something nice for yourself, follow through. Think about the relationships that you love and value most. The cornerstone of that relationship is trust. If you can't trust yourself to show up for yourself when you told yourself that you would, that creates a disconnect in your soul. That's telling yourself that you can't trust yourself to take care of yourself. And the most important relationship you'll ever have is with yourself. It's the longest relationship you'll ever have. So taking time to invest in that relationship isn't selfish. It's actually investing in your life. It's helping you to show up better for the people you love. It's helping you to show up better for yourself. So those are the two, if I could offer two small little tidbits from the book, I would really say an identity journal and taking yourself out on a date every month. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It doesn't have to be extravagant. It can be 2 hours in the evening because you just want to sit down and read a book that you love, or you want to have a bubble bath, or you want to treat yourself to a nice dinner. But taking that time to show yourself that you are a priority, that you love yourself enough to show up for yourself, and you love yourself enough to be honest for yourself and to keep commitments that you make to yourself.
Yes, this is fabulous. I love these lists. So make a list of what you do not like.
Mm-hmm.
Make a list of what you do like. That's great. And I love the examples you gave of the simplicity of that. Should we be sharing these lists with anybody, or are these our lists?
I think it's really a personal experience. For me, I found that if I shared my list with too many people, they influenced my list for better or for worse. Like, are you sure you like that? I've noticed that XYZ. Or, oh, I'm surprised that this is on here. And then it would cause me to go, oh, should that not be on there? Maybe I did my own identity list wrong. Maybe they know me better than I know myself. So it really depends on the person, I think. Some people find that that helps bolster what they're doing and helps give that support for what they're doing. For me, I'm so easily influenced by other people's opinions that it's really important for me to take time in my own life to know who I am before I go to other people, because other people will tell me, oh, wait, let me tell you who you are. I might know you a little better. And so I would encourage you to really know that's part of knowing yourself, knowing how influenced you are. And I found that after I knew what I liked and what I didn't like, it was easier to establish boundaries. It's easier to say no to the things that don't bring me joy. And then it gave me more time to say yes to the things that do bring me joy, that I actually enjoy, not because I'm supposed to enjoy them, but simply because that's who I am.
Yeah, that's great. As far as this doing something nice for yourself once a week, I'd love to dive into this just for a second, because I think a lot of times what comes up for individuals is money, we have to spend on our nails, we have to spend for a massage, we have to spend for facials, and doing that once a week. We got a baby or two. We've got low on finances, whatever's going on, might not seem doable. What are some suggestions that you might have that are not extravagant or not something where you're dumping a lot
I,
of money weekly?
yes, I love that idea. I typically try to encourage women. When we think of self-care, we think nails, massage, spa, luxury beauty treatments. These are all things that cost a lot of money, and they make us feel good for a minute, and there's surface level self-care, which is good. There's surface level self-care and there's deep soul level self-care. You need to balance the two because you'll be exhausted if you only do soul level self-care. And if you do surface level self-care all the time, you're only just, it's like putting a band-aid on the problem with ever actually healing the wound. So I encourage women to balance their surface level self-care with their soul level self-care. So surface level self-care, if you don't have a lot of money to spend, I live in a tiny little rural area of Washington with no access to any beauty spa treatments. I turn on a YouTube video and I do 20 minutes of yoga, or I do 10 minutes of meditation. I light a candle that I love, or I will sit in my backyard and I'll do some stretching, or I'll sit in my backyard with some music that I love and do some journaling. I might take a short walk around the block after my partner gets home, or if I have a neighbor that I trust and really trust and love with my children, she'll come and sit with them after they've gone to bed, and I'll do a walk around the block. Something simple like that, to move, to connect with yourself, to have time where you're not being pulled a million directions. It could be making yourself your favorite cup of tea. It could be making yourself a box of Kraft macaroni and cheese and binging your favorite reality TV show for an hour. It could be working on the book that you want, or if you're an artist, it could be taking a few minutes to draw, to release that creative expression of yourself that helps you feel connected with yourself and in that flow state of mind.
Gorgeous. Love it. Very, very cool. I know the listeners listening live here now, thanks for being here. And those watching on the replay have 100% appreciated all of the goodness that you shared today. As we kind of wrap up here, obviously we're getting a really good idea of, what you do, who you help. Do me a favor. Who should be contacting you? Who should be reaching out to you?
I love to connect with moms in all different stages of their journey. I also love to connect with caregivers. I think caregivers of any spectrum can really relate to those feelings of burnout and overwhelm that comes with caring for another human being and putting yourself second. Regardless of whether you have full-grown kids and you experienced this when you were younger, or if you currently have young kids and you're in the throes of burnout, or if you have teenagers and you're in the throes of burnout. I love to connect with other moms, hear your journey, hear your unique story, and start to build that community of support. Because I think that the burnout stigma can end when we start showing up authentically for each other and ourselves, and we start talking about these things and why we feel burned out and why we feel overwhelmed. And no, I don't have it all together, and that's okay. And I'm not going to be judged. I'm not going to be a bad mom. It doesn't mean I don't love my children just because I'm struggling right now. So I would love to connect with anyone in that season of life where they feel overwhelmed and burned out and inadequate, and just reassure you that it's not your fault. You're doing just fine. And there are tools, and you don't have to live like that anymore.
That's awesome. And I know that you have a book out, Mommy Needs a Minute. Where can people pick this up at?
So it's available on Amazon. You can get the ebook version, a physical paperback version, or because I love listening to audiobooks, I've also done an Audible version as well. So you can listen in the car, you can listen on the move, because girl, I got you. I know how overwhelming and hard it is to sometimes just sit and read a book. So listen while you're making dinner.
Smart, smart, smart. That's great. So Mommy Needs a Minute on Amazon is where you can find that. Where can people find you on social if they'd like to follow you?
You can find me on Facebook, Alyssa Brade Author. You can also find me on Instagram, Alyssa Brade Author. I'm really excited right now. I'm working on a project with Leah, who is the founder of My Mom's Best Advice. We're working on building an organization dedicated to maternal wellness and starting to advocate for women, as well as support women entrepreneurs, women who are trying to find their sense of identity, career, sense of self while navigating motherhood. So really excited about that too. We don't have a lot of information that we're ready to launch and release right now because we're preparing for a big launch here soon. So really excited to share that. Excited to connect with you about that later as well, Sabrina.
I love that. That just brings so much joy to my heart. Fabulous. All right. So for those of you looking to connect with Alyssa, she's predominantly on Facebook and Instagram. Her book, Mommy Needs a Minute, you can find on Amazon. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up here?
Thank you so much for having me, Sabrina. It was lovely chatting with you. Thank you to all the viewers who have taken time out of your busy day to share your time with me. I know it's hard to find a minute as a mom, and I would just encourage you, take a minute today, take a minute tomorrow, take a minute every day for the rest of this week, just for yourself, guilt-free, no strings attached. Do something that brings you joy.
Beautiful. Fabulous. Well, thank you so much, Alyssa, for being here, sharing your wisdom, inspiring us all. To our dedicated listeners who are here until the very end, live and on the replay, thank you so much for being here. Please remember to follow, like, and share this video. Once again, I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I invite you to join our amazing community, Her Nation, where we continue to uplift each other every step of the way by having conversations just like this one. Until next time.